may as well go for broke. I mean, if you think about it, the Democrats' only option was election fraud. It's the only way they even have a chance to win this election. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Americana X Newswatch. I'm Greg D, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. This is another episode of the Newswatch. Newswatch is a show that gives you a common sense perspective to our weekly news cycle. This show is for conservatives that are interested in what's going on behind the sensationalized headlines. If you're new here, welcome to the show. If you've been here before, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Also, share this video out to people in your network so we can continue to grow this conservative network of optimistic, positive Americans that are rooting for and working for the greatest America possible. All right, let's get right into it here. Today, I'm going to be using some examples of some memes from 2016 to illustrate a few points about why the Democrats are so desperate that they have to use fraud to try to steal this election from Donald Trump and hand it over to Joe Biden. The level of desperation, it's been fueled regularly for the last 4 years. We talk about Trump derangement syndrome, right? There's definitely a form of derangement, regardless of where it comes from. And it has driven a whole party to just go right off the edge. They just could not just allow the election to play out and accept the winner. They had to, at any means necessary, try to push their guy into office, right? Hey, election fraud, it's all the Democrats have. It is the only way they can win. And liberals' fraudulent activity to overturn this election, this is my point in this video. It is all coming down to one thing, and that one thing is the optics, okay? And I'm going to make my point about why I believe all this fraudulent activity really comes down to optics here as I unpack this in this video. Because the liberals knew going into this election, they knew 3, 4, 5, 6 months before that Donald Trump had the enthusiasm, he had the American support of the greater population of people in America. They knew it. And they knew their only path to win was to use fraud to get their agenda met. Because they knew America was more behind Donald Trump than their empty suit candidate. They quietly worked in the background, knowing that they were going to have to steal this election from Donald Trump. But this plan we are seeing being executed this week, I want you to keep in mind that in the liberals' mind, this is a win-win for them, okay? And this is where the optics come in. Scenario 1 for the liberals, they successfully go into all the swing states, monkey with the vote enough so that they take the win from Donald Trump and they hand it over to Joe Biden. They get enough of the swing states through fraudulent election activity, and then Joe Biden is now our president, okay? Now, if they are not able to do that, let's say it really is becoming more and more clear that there was just way too many states to do this kind of fraudulent activity in and they don't get away with it, then Donald Trump remains president. Well, what's the second option here if they don't get their first option? Well, they, at the very least, controlled the optics of what Americans saw so they can continue to push their specific narrative that they are trying to plant in America and the rest of the world. You know, we have to keep in mind that the rest of the world was watching this election along with us here in the United States. We also have to keep in mind that the agenda for the liberals was not just to win, It was to control the narrative. Okay? So what is downstream from controlling the narrative? We have to control the imagery. We have to control what people see through their televisions, through the internet, right? What they were most scared of. And I know this sounds really funny, but what I believe the liberals and the Democrats were most scared of is the highlight reel of Donald Trump having a sweeping mandate victory, red wave, call it what you want, right? They were scared of it. They did not want to have a slew of highlight reel videos on YouTube in 2 weeks from now, showing Donald Trump and showing all the media news, mainstream media news people having a meltdown. And then Donald Trump giving his acceptance speech at the end of the night. At all costs, the Democrats were trying to avoid the optics of that moment. Now, this is what I've done here. I have collected some images that I'm going to show you right now. They're memes from 2016. In essence, they were the fallout from Donald Trump's total sweeping victory in 2016. You see, in 2016, I'm sure you remember this, and if you don't, I'm going to remind you right now, Donald Trump won in a big way. Democrats thought they had it in the bag, and they were caught with their pants down. You know, just like the old saying says, when the tide goes out, you see who's not wearing their bathing suits. And what I want to do here is I want to show you a few images from 2016 that help us understand why the liberals are so sensitive now here in 2020. Because these images have been all over the internet and all over YouTube and all over the place for the last 4 years. And a lot of this is going to look familiar to you, but I'm showing you these images because I'm trying to make a point here. And these images are definitely going to help me communicate to you what was going on in 2016. And as a result, what the liberals have just been driving themselves crazy trying to avoid in this election cycle. Here's the first image right here. This young woman right here obviously wanted Hillary Clinton to win. Somebody took a photo of this, put it on the internet. This lady became a major meme. Okay? Now, liberals, when they see this image get out there, it makes them look really bad. And liberals are like, ooh, that is a bad look. That is an embarrassing look. And when you're trying to control the culture, when you're trying to guide the narrative, if images like this one that really embarrass you and make you look bad get out there more and more and more, and if they get out all over the internet and all over YouTube, it's a problem for you, okay? And that's what they're trying to avoid. They do not want another 4 years of that kind of imagery, all right? I'm going to show you the second image here that I took. This right here. They did not want to see this image at the end of election night 2020. Democrats were like, we've got to stop this at all costs, even if it means being dishonest and using fraudulent activity in multiple locations around the United States. You know, the Democrats were, we will do whatever it takes, you know, because the end justifies the means in their mind. They desperately want to get control of the culture again. I'll just show you another image right here. You know, it's this kind of image that gets spread around the internet that really begins to frame the culture shift. This happened in 2016. What do we see here? We see liberals, whiny baby, you know, sore losers. And then what do you have on the other side? A coalition of young, happy, exuberant. They look carefree. They're Trump supporters that are having a good time. Hey, everybody. The good time is being now had by the conservatives, and the liberals, well, their time looks more like this. And I'm sure you guys have seen this image all over the place. This image is probably the most used most popular meme since 2016. This poor young woman. I don't even know if anybody knows this lady's name, but she probably can't go out in public. She's probably totally famous. This has been in every YouTube thumbnail, it's been in, not every, but it's been in so many, right? And it gets cut up and used. The video portion of this gets used in many people's videos, gets cut in to basically illustrate the typical liberal response to losing. And you know what? If in 2020 we would have seen, which we should have seen, if they would have let the vote play out and they just would have counted the votes clean, we would have had a whole nother night of that kind of activity. We would have had a whole nother night of people screaming at the sky and, screeching in the streets, and a group of girls all crying in a huddle. We would have had a lot more of that. And this is, I think, in my mind, one of the top things that the liberals were totally scared about creating or seeing that leak out into culture again. In the last image I'm going to show you here, or next to the last, this image right here, it's kind of a take on the Pepe the Frog meme. It's Donald Trump's face with Pepe. Liberals do not want to see another batch of these images get created and put all over the internet, right? In 2016, Pepe was a little more of a thing. I think he's still around, but it's not as much a thing as it was in 2016. But the point is this. I'm showing you this image because this is the kind of imagery that gets created when a guy like Donald Trump is framed as the cool, subversive, chill, on the people's side president. This kind of imagery is what you get. And then, of course, what's downstream from that kind of thing, the photos like this get spread around from Donald Trump's conferences. It's Donald Trump dancing. You get an image like this, or you get a video clip of Donald Trump dancing at one of his rallies, and you get a very popular response. People love this stuff, and the Democrats can't stand to see another 4 years of this kind of image get out there to the American public. They don't want to see Donald Trump. If Donald Trump got another 4 years, which he probably will right now, he's going to keep doing rallies like this. And I guess you could say the calculation they may not have done is the effect of all of the voter fraud they're doing now and the downstream effect that's going to have in 2021 when Donald Trump's back doing these rallies again. Because if, in fact, he is still our president in 2021, he's going to be talking about this moment. And what's that going to do? It's going to ingratiate a lot more people to him as our president. A lot more conservatives are going to be rallying around him. He is the underdog. He's still the underdog. He was the incumbent. And Donald Trump is still the underdog. It's ridiculous, right? Just too funny. So, I guess you could say that to the liberals' credit, their strategy of trying to control the optics, to control the narrative, they did stop the highlight reel from the election night 2020 that would have inevitably been created if Donald Trump would have been able to give his acceptance speech at the end of the night, which should have happened. And if, we would have had a bunch of people with their cameras or their phones at all the different, what was supposed to be celebration spots around the country for Biden, it just would have been a bunch of people crying and weeping and not knowing how to lose. At any rate, but more than just the Democrats stopping the Republicans from creating funny memes and meltdown videos as a result of that moment, there's something else I want to switch gears on and talk about here in this video. It's the long game. Particularly, it's the Democrat long game. It's the long game that the Democrats are playing, okay? The liberals' long game is to do what has worked for them in the past. What's worked for the liberals in the past? Let's just do a quick 30-second recap. When they won the culture war last time, this is the late 70s, early 80s, when they sort of captured the zeitgeist of that time, it was the liberals that won. And they were able to sort of pit the old stodgy fuddy-duddy conservative style against the new free-thinking, free speech, we're cool liberals of that time. And they quickly moved into positions of power in all of our institutions, including education, entertainment, the government apparatus, all the sort of unelected jobs in government. And because they controlled the narrative at that time, it was a march through all of the institutions. Okay? So how did they do that? One of the ways that they did that was they realized that by keeping the general public in confusion about the way things are going, or by throwing enough nonsense at people, this would help them keep people somewhat discouraged and off balance. And by continually spinning a very specific narrative that the Republicans are the fuddy-duddy, bigoted people, and we're the cool, chill, open-minded people that are inviting people in, we're the tolerant ones, they were able to push a very specific agenda. So their long game was to keep playing that way. And their long game led them to now, which is mostly based on identity politics. And it's pitting now the franchised versus the disenfranchised, this race against that race, sex against sex, pit the sex against each other. That's their long game. But certain aspects, certain tools they had in their toolbox are falling apart now. They've been pushing harder and harder on the identity politics side of things and the political correct side of things. But those tools are getting less and less effective, and they're realizing that. They're seeing it happen before their very eyes. In fact, you could say if there was a mandate that came out of this election that's already been established is pollsters were wrong, and Donald Trump and the Republican Party made a case for the Republican Party now becoming the party of inclusion and tolerance. And what are we getting? We're getting the Senate being held, and we're getting a lot of seats being flipped in the House. That is really handing a very specific message to the liberals that have been basically trying to maintain their culture whirlwind from the 80s all the way till now by pushing more and more extreme levels of political correctness. It's not working for them. It's falling apart, and that's what we're seeing. Okay, so if they keep us from seeing what's really going on clearly, then they can continue to win, all right? And so their toolbox of political correctness gave them identity politics, gave them Marxist philosophy, neo-Marxist philosophy, and that allowed them to keep everybody buzzing with that kind of frustration and anger and kind of keeping everybody spinning in chaos. The interesting thing about the way that they have positioned themselves is by creating more chaos is the way that they end up winning. They create chaos. They keep groups of people separated, right? Because they're losing some of their tools of political correctness and identity politics, they've got to lean more into chaos. They've got to create more chaos in culture to make up for the difference of losing momentum through identity politics. And so they got to keep pounding their minority of supporters that don't mind being zealots for them. And that's how we're getting the destruction of our major cities right now. They have fully and thoroughly indoctrinated and brainwashed their younger generation, which is a minority of people. But they got a minority of people out in the streets causing havoc, rioting, looting, crime, violence, sometimes murder. They're doing all that because if they can keep them spinning in chaos, they can promote that there's this narrative of chaos in all of culture. And now that's extending into the election. We can't win on the issues. Identity politics isn't working for us like it did with Barack Obama. What are we going to do? We got to lean heavier into chaos. So we'll create a bunch of fraud activity in this election, and that will allow us to create the chaos for the American person, for the general American population. What does chaos do? Makes everybody feel frustrated, confused, and angry, right? And it's already working for their base. Their base is already young, angry, confused, frustrated people that they already have as their foot soldiers, the useful idiots destroying our cities in America. They've already got them tearing things down, setting things on fire, and they're not going to stop. And of course, that's the part that is really difficult for liberals because They've created so much chaos and so much unclear thinking, even for their own party, that these kids don't know where to stop, right? These kids don't know where the destination is. Where do I end? When do I stop protesting? There's no end to it because the chaos is the goal. That is the point. Chaos just keeps begetting more chaos. There is no end to that. So what are these kids going to do? They're going to get caught in a loop of really destructive psychology. It just kind of keeps them looting and rioting. Why are we doing this anymore? What are we doing? The guy got elected president. Are we going to keep rioting? I guess, yeah, we keep rioting because the system's the problem. See, you see how just the madness continues. Because there is no clearly defined goal. The chaos has become the goal. You could say that when identity politics was still selling, you could get a plurality of the people voting for you based on identity politics, like with Barack Obama. You could say that there was an order to that there was a goal at the end of the rainbow on that one, right? But when that's falling apart on you, and that's not working anymore, it's not selling to people anymore. People aren't buying your line of bull around identity politics and political correctness. All you've got is your other tools in the toolbox, which is generating chaos. Keep people confused. That will also create division between people, which is ultimately what identity politics does for them. It keeps people separated and divided and hating each other. And that's what they need to continue winning elections. So the liberals are controlling the optics to cover up and distract people from what should have been a resounding win for Donald Trump on Tuesday night. Here we are, we're on the 6th of November right now. That is what we're seeing. It's just another Democrat boondoggle. They're doing this so that they'll be able to create a narrative of nonsense that all their media and news outlets will continue to push and continue to promote going forward into 2021. So even if they lose, they see this as a winning scenario for them because they get the narrative that they want. They controlled the optics on election night. They didn't give the conservatives their memes. And now, even if Donald Trump is president, they've got enough energy in their party to continue to push the lies and the agenda of something that's really not working anyways. I mean, at some point in time, it's going to be exposed that identity politics is literally not working at all with anyone. You can't win elections anywhere with it. Will that happen maybe in 2 years, maybe in 4 years from now? Maybe we'll see then. But for the time being, they're going to hang on to it. And the way they're going to hang on to it is through nefarious, fraudulent tactics. Because that's all they've got. Chaos created through fraud. And if they can get everybody bought in enough on that, then, if there's enough noise created, if there's enough chaos created, maybe, just maybe, Joe Biden will become our president. We'll see how it goes, Maybe they'll rob the election. Maybe their attempt to steal the election from Donald Trump will work. It's very messed up. It's very sad. It makes for a sad America, but Democrats do not care how sad America is as long as they win. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think my assessment here is correct? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, share this out to people in your network so that we can continue to encourage and grow a greater America that's based on optimism, not based on making America sad. All right, this has been another episode of Americana X Newswatch. I'm Greg D, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. We will see you next time.